With Pokemon Scarlet and Violet having been out for a few months now, I've finally gotten around to completing the story for Pokemon Violet. Before my first Pokemon Violet stream, I had actually played around 5 hours on my own, so I decided to create a new save file to catch up on stream. After getting through the slow beginnings, I was finally able to pick my starter. In my personal file, I picked Fuecoco, so I wanted to pick someone new for this run. I let chat decide, and we ended up going with Quaxley. His name was also left up to chat, ending with us naming him Jojo. Once we were done getting our Duck Boy, we of course battled our new rival. Since this was the basic first fight, we obliterated the empty-headed Fuecoco. Nemona then goes on to declare us her new rival, our mom gives us a sandwich for our lunch, and we start our long and tedious journey to our new school. Since I already had my personal file where I'd spent hours catching all the Pokemon in these earlier routes, I didn't really try to catch everyone here. Honestly, I just wanted to speedrun this boring tutorial section until I started the 3 storylines. Of course, we can't just go to school. No, on our way to school, we come across a half-dead robot. We feed him our lunch. We go on a walk with him. And then he saves us from certain death. After a grueling cave adventure, we run into the rude for the sake of leaving room for character development, Arvin, who after getting destroyed with his newly found squirrel, just gives us the Pokeball for this unknown Pokemon who just saved us. Well, completely overlooking what just happened, we continue on our merry way. We catch a few more Pokemon, fight a trainer or two, and finally get to school. After getting through a bunch more dialogue, I finally unlock all 3 paths and am free to roam this open world. I decide that my first objective is to take on the first gym, the Bug Gym. So before I make my way left to hunt down the town, I take a quick detour right to find a small fire friend to help me out. After catching and battling a bit with my newest addition, I finally make my way to the Bug Gym. The first time doing the olive roll was a bit fun, but doing it a second time for the stream, I really just wish I could have skipped it. Moving on to the actual gym fight. The first 2 Pokemon were a bit of a breeze to beat. But the problem started with Katie's final Pokemon. The Tera bug Teddy Ursa proved to be a bit of a challenge. Being level 15 compared to Jojo, who was only level 14, because I decided to speedrun the tutorial section. The bear had already taken out Charcadet, who had carried the battle up till then, so now it was basically all up to Jojo. And this didn't go well. Jojo actually ends up falling after a few hits, so I send out Wooper, who immediately fell to a not-so-effective Fury Cutter. Next, Hoppip puts Teddy Ursa to sleep, which didn't even last a full turn, so that means another Pokemon down. Palmy falls victim to another Fury Cutter after doing what felt like a singular point of damage with Quick Attack. Fido was the real MVP here, surviving to let me heal Charcadet back to full and finally ending this gym battle. Well, with the first gym down, it's time to move on to the first Titan. On my way to crack open a giant crab, I decided to take on a random trainer. Note that this is still in the file that I was speedrunning to catch up to my personal run, so I was skipping a lot of things, like trainer battles to level up my Pokemon. So this trainer battle ended up being a bit of a wall. One that I didn't actually need to break, but I made it a self-imposed barrier. So after going back and grinding out some trainer battles that I had originally skipped over, I rematched and finally ended up winning against the trainer that had become the wall. This also did good to prepare my Pokemon for the first Titan that they'd face. Onto the Titan! This fight started out great. On the way to the Titan, we did some battles and I wanted to heal up before the fight. Well, of course, that didn't go as planned. When going to Cloth, I got too close and accidentally triggered the cutscene that would throw me into battle. But there was actually no need to worry because JoJo ended up one-shotting this oversized crustacean. Even the second stage was finished with a simple 2-hit of Water Pulse. After unlocking our first ability, Dash from a Rhydon, day 1 of our Violet adventure comes to an end. I decided to start off day 2 with making my way to the Grass Gym. This challenge wasn't the worst, just hunt around the city for a bunch of Symphora. Honestly, this was the point in the game to where people were getting kinda harsh with the frame rates, and it wasn't until I got a good few following flowers that I really started to have issues. I know that might not mean much since by the end I did end up with a PowerPoint presentation, but hey, I was going in expecting way worse. As for the gym battle itself, I have to say, this was one of the most memorable entrances in the whole game. I once again lead with Mega Man the Truck Cadet, who has to get swapped out during the first Pokemon because our boy was weak and asleep. But don't worry, JoJo will save us, who also gets promptly put to sleep. Hoppip gets tossed in to at least not die too easily and is able to take out the last of Petalily's HP. When Smoliv comes out, I wake up JoJo and swap him in to take out Smoliv, but nearly get taken out with Sudowoodo's Trailblazer. This stubborn Sudowoodo ends up taking out Wooper, Knackley, and Fido, while I try to stall out to do some chip damage. I end up healing JoJo, who comes back in to finish off the Sudowoodo. Once again, I'm reminded of how important doing the trainer battles are. But hey, Hoppip evolved in the Skip Loom, so it's totally worth it, right? Totally not gonna bench this thing. Our trip to knock the Big Bird out of the sky was pretty uneventful, so moving on to the battle, we just toss out JoJo to start. Realizing that I have no idea what type this Pokemon is, I low sweep and only take out a small chunk of its HP. So we toss out Fido, only to have them taken out before they could even get off an attack. Up next is Mega Man, who hangs on with 9 HP to get off a Fire Spin. They end up falling to the next wing attack, so Knackley is up next. Luckily, Knackley easily tanks the first attack and finishes the fight off with some rock throws. Phase 2 is met with JoJo terrestrializing and hitting the Bombirdier with a Water Pulse that does less than desirable damage. But Arven's Knackley actually puts in work, so after a few turns, we beat the bird with no losses to our side. Now we get to cry at the tear-jerking backstory of Arven and his Mabostiff. And Miraidon gets Surf! To wrap up day 2, it was decided by chat that I would go and defeat the Dark-type Starbase. We start out by destroying the grunt that guards the door. We take on the challenge with Fido, JoJo, and Mega Man, who have no issues taking out 30 Team Star Pokemon. Well, except for Fido fainting, but you know, they healed back before the boss fight, so that's beside the point. Along with the great OST, we're also introduced to the first of the 5 Team Star leaders that we'll have to fight. Leading this fight with Fido, I terrestrialize and take out half of the first Pokemon's HP, but not before it does over half to Fido. I pop a super potion to get Fido back to full, only to be brought back down to 15 HP, and then die before Fido takes out the first Pokemon. Well, this is what JoJo's for. After taking out the first Pokemon, the most annoying fight thus far begins. Low Sweep does minimal damage, as Wicked Torque does pretty decent chip damage. With only 7 HP left, we throw out our newly acquired Toadstool, who's taken out immediately. The next victim to be thrown to the evil car is Mega Man, who gets taken to the half, and then faints. Being down to 2 full HP, low-level Pokemon and a half-dead JoJo, Wooper gets tossed out into the field while I revive and heal poor Fido just in time for Wooper to fall. given a second chance to show their skills, Fido does a decent amount of damage, while the gods of RNG bless us with 2 only stat affecting attacks. So we only have to heal once before fainting again. Suffering through the longest single Pokemon battle in my life, I toss out Nacli to be fodder while I heal up JoJo. Since Nacli is a little tank, I was able to even get a little bit of damage in. After Nacli goes down, JoJo comes back to finally end my misery. We begin to see the backstory unravel for Team Star as we wrap up day 2. To start off day 3, we swap back to my original save file, so we are now working with my team. My team is actually an appropriate level now, maybe even a little bit higher because I've been catching every Pokemon that I found on my journey. Our first mission is to take on the 3rd gym. Having ended in Levincia City, I think I'm ready to take this on because I now have my Clodsire Claude, who is pretty decently leveled up. Of course, nothing can be easy. Nemona pops up, so of course we have to face her for our daily warm-up. I take out her first 2 Pokemon with Claude, and then I want to fight her starter with my starter, so 2 Incinerates later, we show Nemona that we have indeed gotten stronger. Now that we have sufficiently warmed up, we make our way back to the gym to take on the new gym challenge. This challenge is tied to Lono being a streamer, so we had to help her get views. I don't know, something about doing this while streaming myself made it feel really trippy. I didn't know what to expect going into this gym challenge, but a worse Baldo with Clavel was certainly not it. This was probably the quickest gym challenge though. He was super easy to find, but the song between each of the scenes was somewhat annoying by the end of it. The battles in between were okay. I had Claude out front, so she really just swept through all the electric types. After clearing the challenge with ease, I was finally able to move on to the main challenge, which was battling Lono. The entire battle was framed like a stream with chats popping up around Lono throughout the fight. I thought this was super neat and it really had her stayed in character. The fight was a lot more easier than the other fights I had done so far. Claude takes out Lono's Watchrill with 2 Poison Tails after realizing that Bulldoze doesn't have an effect. Up next is Bellybolt, who is affected by Bulldoze, so another 2 hits and Claude gets another kill. Luxio is our next victim. This pretty kitty ends up flinching Claude 3 times and almost takes Claude out. I actually had to heal my blob before taking Luxio out with the second Bulldoze. For the first time in this battle, I swap out Claude for Mousehold to take on Lono's last Pokemon. Miss Magius doesn't stand a chance with our mouse. I terrasilize my mouse family, and 1 double hit later, we're collecting our 3rd gym badge and getting a selfie with Lono. After getting out of the gym, I wander around, catch a few Pokemon, fight a trainer or 2, and then I'm on my way to the next Titan. But not before catching a Murkrow and naming it Jon Snow. Our next mission, take out the Team Star Fire Base. The grunt that watches the door is nothing for Cheesecake, our Pama. So then we go on our Pokemon slaughtering spree with Cheesecake, Claude, and Mousehold. Cheesecake does go down during the fight, but that's okay because Claude and Mousehold finished the job. The Team Star fight does make me a bit nervous because of their final Pokemon. We open the fight with a set arm thrust from Cheesecake, and it barely does any damage. The enemy Torkoal almost one-shots Cheesecake, and we hit it with a Nuzzle that paralyzes for the next turn. I hesitated to bring Claude out so soon because we need our tank. 2 Bulldozes later, and Torkoal does go down, so now the real challenge starts. The Starmobile takes out half of Claude's health while I do chip damage after chip damage. Add on top of that, Claude ends up getting burned, and this is really a tough fight. I do let Claude fall with the intent to bring her back later. Mousehold is my next best option, so I Super Fang, which does a good chunk of the remaining health. I decide to panic terrasilize Mousehold, and I'm so lucky that we just get screeched. A double hit leaves the Starmobile in the red, and things get really tight when a single hit almost knocks out Mousehold, but they hang on to deliver the finishing double hit. I do my normal exploring before moving on to the next thing, and I actually find out that I have a Weasel outbreak happening, so for no logical reason at all, I spur of the moment decide I'm going to hunt for a shiny Weasel. Without a shiny charm, and without a sandwich to up my odds. This hunt took me 2 whole hours. So after mindlessly hunting for a slightly different colored water weasel, I find my little orange boy, and he's hiding behind a rock. So after giving myself a migraine, I decide that this is where we will wrap up day 3. After spending half of day 3 shiny hunting, I start off day 4 by going for the giant worm boy.
So before I went into the fight, I had my resident Poke expert buff up my team, so now we're a bit more prepared. I think this Titan is definitely my favorite because he's goofy and I love it. Well, sadly I can't let him live long, so I give him a quick phase 1 death, and then I terastallize and give him a quick phase 2 death. We now have the ability to jump super high, so this game seems so much more open, and we're gonna make our way to our next task. My next task is to take on the water gym. So I arrive and enjoy the unique town design. I do wish the animation for getting on the elevator was smoother. Getting on that thing for the first time really threw me. I actually found the gym challenge fun. I thought that it was decently engaging to send you to this market and have you end up in a bidding war. It felt like an attempt to give culture to the city, plus the humor in the fact that we had to run across the desert because the gym leader forgot his wallet. After taking out the gym leader's assistant, Tails, our shiny new weasel, evolves. Then I'm told to go get this rare good in a bidding war, and if I get it, I get a chance at battling for the gym badge. After returning to the city, I'm finally able to take on the gym. To start off, we send out Olive Garden the Dolph to face a fish. I terastallize Olive Garden and then one-shot the first Pokemon. Next up is Diglett's regional cousin, who does get a hit in on Olive Garden, but then gets one shot and we're down to the final Pokemon already. The giant snow crab gets a slap in, but then goes on to suffer the same fate as the others. This was by far the easiest gym that we've encountered so far in our journey, and we didn't even have to swap Pokemon once or heal. I do think that this is one of my favorite commemorative photos though. Having gotten slightly further in the story, a short day 4 comes to a close. To start off day 5, I really wanted to make some more progress, so I take on the poison type Starbase. Once again, the grunt is easily taken out, and the 30 Pokemon went down pretty easily, this time without any of my Pokemon fainting. The boss fight is once again challenging. I throw out my tank of a Claude to face their also tanky Skunk Tank. Claude takes them out in 2 hits and stays on the field to face the Revavroom, who goes down in 1 hit. Before Muck comes out, I worry because Claude's down to only 33 HP, so I send out Mousehold, my secret little weapon. I immediately toss a Hyper Potion to Claude while Disney the Mousehold takes a huge chunk of health from Muck with a double hit, and then goes on to finish it off with the next attack. With the Starmobile now in the fight, Mousehold takes a huge hit to end in red. And even though double hit does some decent damage, I know that they're going to fall for the next turn, which they do. Claude returns to the field and tanks those double hits while doing some great damage of her own, and it seems like it's a race to see who will fall first. Claude and the Starmobile both end up in the red on the same turn, and I take the chance of Claude tanking the next hit, and Claude faints before taking out the final last bit of health. Tails gets tossed out and immediately poisoned, but thanks to Quick Attack, the fight comes to an end. Day 5 was filled with a lot of traveling and catching new Pokemon in all the new areas I found, so Day 5 comes to an end with catching my first Eevee. Since Day 5 ended right before the normal type gym, Day 6 begins with getting lost in the gym challenge. I think this challenge might have been the most confusing to me. I know that it was one that took me the longest to figure out. I went around the town for like 10 minutes too long. I thought I had answers and knew what to do. Yeah, I got the hints, but apparently I was very wrong. After struggling through all that, I finally completed it. Larry is easily one of my favorite gym leaders. He starts out with Komala as I throw out Chili. One Torch Song is actually not enough to kill, but a Flamethrower will finish the job. Chili ends up being put to sleep during the round, so I have to swap. I decide on Tikaton to go against the Dunsparce, who barely lives a Gigaton Hammer. Kinda sad, honestly. But I do finish up with a Brule Swing, so job well done. Last is Staraptor, who gets one shot by Gigaton Hammer. Once we finish up with Larry in the gym, Nemona obviously can't wait to fight her newest rival, so I take 2 minutes to win. Me and my team bear the cold mountains so that we can face the ghost gym. Here is the only time I get to do a double battle, and of course I start with the wrong Pokemon and have to use my first turn to swap a Pokemon out each battle. I did really enjoy these double battles, so I was happy to see them carry out to the actual gym fight. But I wasn't smart enough to think it through, so I forgot to change up my team. But none to fear, the gym was the same as the ones before. We add another badge to our collection, and our next target is the Quaking Titan. After trekking through the desert, I find the giant beast that will be our next battle. This is our first future Pokemon that we've encountered so far in our journey. A quick and easy fight after Terrasili's Torch Song one-shots the first phase. Getting through the second phase was another Torch Song, rinse and repeat. And now we can glide! In preparation for day 7, I make it to the Psychic Gym before wrapping up for the day. We start off day 7 by testing our reaction time in the Psychic Gym Challenge. We also had to do some fights, but those were super easy too. As for the gym battle, I start off with Chili as usual, while the gym leader starts off with Farafrig. 2 hits later, and the next Pokemon's up, who immediately gets one shot. Gardevoir is up next to join the other 2 with a single Shadow Ball. I finally decided to give Chili a break and send out Disney to face Florges. But no fear, Terrasili's Population Bomb is here. And with that, we have another badge to add to our collection. Wanting to feel extra productive during today's stream, we book it straight to the Ice-type gym. This stupid challenge was unnecessarily hard because of the rough handling of Miraidon. Either way, after getting through the Scuff challenge, I'm ready to take on the Ice-type gym leader. To begin our chilling fight, I toss out Tinkaton to squash Frostmoth with a Gigaton Hammer. Beartic is up next, and since I can't use Gigaton Hammer 2 times in a row, I take it out with 2 Play Roughs. With the use of Gigaton Hammer now available again, Titan falls as soon as they reach the field. For the final Pokemon, I decide to swap out for Chili as we face Altaria. None to fear, 1 Torch Song later and the bird flies no more. That's the second badge of the day, and that wraps up the gym journey, so I get directed to the Pokemon League. To continue our speedrun on day 7, we head to the Fairy-type Starbase. Like the last 2 times, the grunt guarding the door was easy to blast past, plus knocking out the 30 grunt Pokemon. The boss fight in this Starbase actually felt like a lot. Starting out the boss fight, it's Claude versus Azumarill. Claude manages to take out Azumarill without taking any damage. Wigglytuff is up next and paralyzes Claude with a Body Slam, so I switch to Tinkaton, who is then also paralyzed, but Gigaton Hammer does manage to take him out. Tinkaton stays in to face Disband, missing my first attack because of paralysis. I hit a sad play rough that basically does nothing until I get off a Gigaton Hammer on the next turn. On to the main star of the show, the Starmobile comes out to play while I swap for Disney. I decide to go for a Population Bomb that does a good amount of damage, taking out around 2/3 of the enemy's health. After the first attack, I needed to heal Disney, and then I go for another Population Bomb, and this actually wraps up the 3rd Starbase boss battle. During my playthrough, the Greninja raids were happening, so we took a quick pause from our normally scheduled program to go and catch one. I borrowed a shiny Quillfish from my boyfriend, and we go in for round 1. We do end up losing, so we get ready and going again, and luckily this round, it goes a lot smoother than last time. When we get back on our schedule, I make my way to fight a tiny fish that will control a giant fish. I love the Sushi Islands where we begin the Titan fight, and all the little Tatsugiri just sitting around were so cute. I didn't want to start the fight because I didn't want to risk them not being there afterwards. Once I started the fight, Tatsugiri jumped into Dodonzo and I threw out Olive Garden. Starting off with a Terrasili's Energy Ball, that was all it took to finish off phase 1. The grumpy Dodonzo swims off and we give chase on Miraidon. Starting phase 2, I toss out Olive Garden again and Terrasili's. 1 Energy Ball and Dodonzo barely lives. Health in the red but still swimming. A strong wind would finish him off, but we overkill with another Energy Ball, and we have to go into surprise phase 3, where we fight just Tatsugiri. This guy is tankier than I thought. A Terrasili's Energy Ball doesn't even take out half of the health bar. It takes 3 Energy Balls to take out this stubborn Sushi, but we do finish him off, and then we get the herb that Arven's after. To wrap up day 7, we go to take on our last Starbase, the Fighting type one. Once again, beating the grunts takes little to no effort. We've done this 3 times already, so beating the 3 Pokemon out front, yeah, we just bulldoze them. And we also bulldoze through the 30 Pokemon to get to the boss. Since the Star-type bosses are actually some of the hardest fights in the game, I'm actually a bit worried going into this final Star boss fight. I start off with Claude, our loyal tank, who goes against Toxicroak. We one-shot the first Pokemon and go to switch Claude for Chili. Annihilate looks scary, and he is scary when he barely lives after a Shadow Ball. Chili ends up falling while trying to get the final hit in, so I swap in for Tails, who has a priority move. While Annihilate's down, I send out Tinkaton to face Passimian. 1 play rough brings Passimian into the red, while a close combat brings Tinkaton into the yellow. Luckily, since I'm faster, Tinkaton takes out the Passimian with the 2nd play rough. I then switch to Claude to face Lucario, Claude isn't fast, so some damage is taken on the first hit, but one Earthquake is enough to take out Lucario. The Starmobile is up next, so I try an Earthquake. The Starmobile uses Gear Shift, which is somewhat scary. A strong Pokemon raising its attack is kinda terrifying. I do go to revive Chili and heal him up just in time as Claude goes down. I send out Chili and Terrasilize. After taking a big hit, Torch Song brings the Starmobile into the yellow. With Chili not being able to tank another hit, I'm worried. I end up sending Disney, who gets their HP halved. But it's okay, because I just need to heal up Chili. Disney falls to the next hit, and I can safely bring in Chili. Realizing that Terastallization stays as long as the Pokemon doesn't faint, a final Torch Song takes out the last Starmobile. This was a highly stressful fight, but it also means that I've completed yet another path today. Day 7 was by far my most productive day so far in this playthrough, and actually leaves me only one stream before I should be done with the journey. The plan to start off day 8 is to face the Elite Four, so we have to do a little bit of leveling. We decided to take some time to do a little bit of Chansey training. The last thing that I thought I would be doing before fighting the Elite Four would be to take a test. I was not prepared and did end up looking up the name of the gym leader after picking a town based on just the name and having no idea which gym it was. But once I got past the pop quiz, I jumped right into the first fight against Rika. The first fight is Olive Garden versus Wishcash. Olive Garden avoids the fish attack while one-shotting the Wishcash. I trade out for Tails to go against Camerupt, and once again, one Aqua Jet later, they're down. We see Rika send out Donphan. I decide to bring back out Olive Garden, who would have one-shot the Donphan if not for Sturdy. Olive Garden uses Pollen Puff for the first time ever to take out the small remaining bit of health. Daylet's up next, who kicks up a Sandstorm, but is no match for Energy Ball. Now for the final Pokemon. I toss out Tails to go against Rika's Clodsire. This fight takes 2 Ice Fangs from Tails, but we do emerge victorious for our first Elite Four member. Poppy is up next and is probably the fastest because Chili Torch Songs and one-shots all of her Pokemon except for her Magnezone, and that's only because of Sturdy. So with that, we are very quickly halfway through the Elite Four. The third member is our favorite gym leader, Larry! Chili starts off the fight against Tropius, who lives a Shadow Ball, but does minimal damage with Air Cutter. At least a second Shadow Ball finishes the job. Tails comes out to face Staraptor, and one Ice Fang is not enough to finish the job. Either way, Staraptor does not cause many issues, and they fall in the next turn. I decide to send out Tinkaton next, and they take out Altaria with a single play rough. With Oricorio up next, I send out Disney. With Disney knowing Population Bomb, Oricorio never stood a chance. Flamingo goes up against Chili and then gets one shot after doing a small chunk of damage. We've now won against 3 out of 4 of the members. Pastel's our final match for the Elite Four. Tinkaton's up to play against the Dragon types, and Play Rough sweeps every single Pokemon, and now we're done with the Elite Four. Now we can finally move on to what should be the most challenging battle in the whole game, taking on the champion of the Elite Four. Chili starts off the fight and we're lucky enough to be dealt a crit and one-shot our first opponent. Chili is also able to one-shot the next opponent as we melt Avalugg with Torch Song. With King Gambit up next, Chili continues the chains of one-shotting Torch Songs. Veluza's up next and I make the first swap of the battle. With Olive Garden out on the field, each Pokemon have a super effective move. With 2 Ice Fangs chipping away at Olive Garden because of a flinch, they're finally able to get a one-shot off with Energy Ball. Go-Goat's up next, so I switch back to Chili, and just with the last 3 Torch Songs, we one-shot the Goat. Glomora's our final opponent, so we send out Claude to bring the battle to an end. Glomora turns out to be more tankier than the others. The only Pokemon not to get one-shot. It actually puts up a good fight against Claude. But in the end, 3 Earthquakes later, and we've defeated the champion of the Elite Four. Now we go back to the academy and have to finish off the Team Star drama. We fight Clive and then get the big reveal that he's really Clavel. Then, once we're done with that battle, we jump in and fight Penny. Each of these fights were pretty easy, and I feel like they were more of a focus for the story than rather being, challenging. Now on to the fun part that I've been looking forward to for so long now. We go back and beat up Arvin one last time before beginning our journey into Area 0. Actually, we need to fight Nemona one last time, and now we get to go to Area 0. This was the moment that I've been looking forward to for weeks at this point. Everyone around me told me how amazing the music is, how pretty the area was, and I finally was getting to see it for myself. As we make our way down, Miraidon refuses to be a ride Pokemon, so we have to walk to the bottom of Area 0. We find some interesting Pokemon on the way down, and even have to fight a horde of future Pokemon. After breaking into the lab at the bottom of Area 0, we're given the shocking and totally not predictable news that the professor is actually dead. The man standing before us is an AI designed to protect the time machine that brings back Pokemon to the current time. We are then given the near impossible task of having to destroy said time machine, essentially stopping the life goal of the professor. The main problem is not having to terminate his life's ending project. It's having to stop the machine with the AI trying to kill anyone who tries. We enter into the most epic battle in the entire game. We fight future Pokemon after future Pokemon, and this is actually really scary. Luckily, Disney's our little champ and carries this battle. After AI Toro is defeated, I naively thought that we had won the war, but I quickly realized that it was only just the battle. AI Toro has one last thing up his sleeve. After locking up every Pokeball in the room, I'm screwed and can't use any of my team. With the arrival of a second Miraidon and no Pokemon available on my side of the field, we're left with no other choice but to send out our own scared, feeble Miraidon. This fight was nerve-wracking because I honestly was so nervous my Miraidon would lose. After figuring out what I needed to do, our Miraidon came out as the winner! With 1 HP and a dream! 1 Dragon-type Tera Blast secures the battle. And with that, we say our final goodbye to AI Toro and complete the main story for Pokemon Violet. I really enjoyed this game, even with all of the bugs. I would recommend it for Pokemon fans because it truly is a fun experience. Well, until next time!